Good morning. Is it still good morning? Is it lunch yet? Ish, almost. I'm glad you're here. You got chapel credit. Great. Okay. Friends, let's see. This morning, we're dealing with the heart. Yike. Okay, here we go. Pet peeves, right? You guys have some? Yes? Rhetorical question, I suppose. I have a list of pet peeves for you. They are not just all mine. They're some of yours, too. Pet peeves number one, people chewing with food in their mouths. When they're talking this morning, my son, I love kale, I love the blueberry waffle, but man, keep it in the mouth and keep it shut, you know. Or better yet, friends, number two, when you go to grab your grilled burrito and someone else has already taken it. Right? But no, the cast's been doing great. So they've been doing great. Ollie and his team have been doing great. Number three, people who use redundant hashtags on Instagram. Right? They're like hashtag no filter, hashtag selfie. We got it. It's a picture of you. Yeah, we don't need it. Yeah. Number four, this is one of mine. Dog owners, when they leave their dog's poop on the sidewalk, and then I step in it. It's happened twice. Hashtag maintenance will clean it up. Hashtag people of NU. That's funny. Okay. Number five. Man, when you spell my name wrong, when you email me and my email is in the to line and you're like, dear Sarah, I'm like, you spelled my name wrong, delete, you know. I wish I could do that. No offense, but yeah, that's fine. Number six, when you're studying in the in the HSC fireside room, like after 10 p.m., the lights go out, and you're like, maybe you like that. No, but then you gotta go do jumping jacks to make the lights turn back on. I've been there. I look like an idiot. Okay. Number seven, right, when the person next to you, like you go to the elevator and they're like pushing that button, like you're like, it's not gonna come faster because you push the elevator button, you know, like they're like stop pushing the button. Better yet, when the elevator takes super long, when you're only going up like one flight of stairs, you know, like, yeah. Hashtag Barton elevator is awesome. That was pretty good. You see what I did there? Okay, yeah. Friends, maybe you and I like pet peeves because, man, we're annoyed. No, misery loves company. Maybe, man, we're quick. I'm quick. Man, to voice our annoyances. Maybe we're quick to judge, and instead of being slow to anger, maybe we're quick to anger. Let me introduce you to anger.
And I play anger in Disney Pixar's Inside Out. Who's anger? What? He's that feeling in the back of your head when you stub your toe, or you end up stuck in traffic, or have your dinner interrupted by a telemarketer. Hang on, I'm getting a little worked up here.
Breathe, find your happy place.
Those other emotions are all too touchy-feely. I'm sad. I'm scared. Can I say that curse word now? Anger is all about getting the job done. Time to take action. So don't get in his way. Move, otherwise he might explode.
You wouldn't.
Oh, but I would. Seriously. He only does it because he really cares, though. Promise. I arrest my case.
Rated PG.
So good, so good.
You look like.
Oh, friends, that is anger. This morning, we're going to talk about anger, but more than that, we're going to talk about dealing with the heart. That's what this passage in Matthew 5 is really about. I'm going to read this for you. It's Matthew 5, 21 through 26 in the New Living Translation. And if you think I'm spicy, man, this is what Jesus is spicy because this is good. This is good. It's all so spicy. Okay, so he's telling the folks, this is Jesus. He's saying, you have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment. Got it. But I say, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell. Holy, right? Oh, this is not me. This is Jesus. Okay. If you're presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple, and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, then leave your sacrifice there at the altar, go and be reconciled to that person, and then come back and offer your sacrifice to God. Verse 25, when you're on the way to court with your adversary, why would you be on your way to court? Let's carpool. You're my enemy. Let's go. I don't know why that, but whatever. Settle your differences quickly. Otherwise, your accuser may hand you over to the judge, who'll hand you over to the officer, and be thrown into prison. And if that happens, good luck. No, right? This is the passage this morning. And before I tell you where we're going to go this morning, I want to tell you where we're not going to go. I think it's a little bit important. Talking about anger, we're not talking this morning about righteous anger, which is something out there, and being angry with God. Both of those are great topics. I'd love to unpack them with you, but not today. Today's passage is really, truly about addressing anger and how you and I relate to each other. And you think, what does this have to do? No. I've got kids and I'm in housing, so there's anger. It's a real thing. Okay, this morning where we're going, I hope you follow along, I want to unpack 3 key things from this passage and then give you 3 practices for really dealing with our hearts. If it is about our heart, and it is, friends, it's not about murder, it's about our hearts, then I want to give you some practices to help with that. Okay, so first things first, in this passage, attitude is as important as the act. The Pharisees, friends, in this passage thought, man, that as long as they didn't commit murder, right, killing someone, they're released of their obligation from their fellow man. Like as long as their hands didn't perform the outward act, then the inward attitude of the heart was irrelevant. But Jesus isn't saying that. He's saying, hey, look, yo, I don't know if he said that. You've been led to believe it was sufficient to simply, to not to kill, to not murder someone. You've been led to believe that your responsibility to others was fulfilled by observing the external letter of the law, but I'm telling you, attitude and intent of the heart is as equally important as the act. Yike. Jesus is focusing on the source of our behavior. It's not enough, friends, to focus on the outward act, but he wants us to focus on who we are. Here, the heart. Most people, they're proud of the fact that they've never killed someone. It's great. You should be proud of that. If you ask someone if they're a good person, right? People say, well, yeah, I'm a good person. Like, well, why are you a good person? Like, I haven't killed anyone. Like, that's great. So friends, if you have not committed murder, well done. I'm so proud. Chapel cred, like, you have technically kept the letter of the law. We could be done. Let's go to lunch. No, friends, Jesus is saying the intent, what is in here, is as equally important as the act. It's not enough to focus on the outward behavior. We have to focus on the inward attitude of the heart. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing to quickly unpack is anger as animosity. And we'll unpack this here. Dallas Willard, in his the book, The Divine Conspiracy, says, the primary function of anger in life is to alert me to an obstruction of my will and immediately raise alarm and resistance before I even have time to think about it. And if that were all there was to anger, all would be well. Anger in this sense is not sin, though it'd be still better to be avoided where possible. But it doesn't just stop there, friends. There are 2 words in Greek for anger. I don't know what they are. I mean, I have them here in my notes, but I'm not a theologian, so okay, great. Back to here. There are 2 kinds of anger in the Greek. One word with a T, not going to pronounce it, going to get it wrong. Great. Is a sudden burst of anger. It's an anger that surges and then but it's gone. It's the anger when twice in a month I stub my toe. It's still blue. I'm not going to show you, but it's still blue. I was pissed. I was not The Lord was not pleased with that, right? It is a quick burst of anger, and then it's gone. The black toe is still there, but the anger is gone. The second kind of anger is a deep-seated animosity that seethes. It's a great word. It's a long-lived anger over which a person broods, and we nurse it, and we don't let it die. It's an anger that we continually fan, taking it from an ember to a raging fire of bitterness and resentment. And we spend, you all spend, I know you do because I'm with you, we spend energy and emotion keeping that anger alive. We reread that text or that tweet, right? Because we want to remember what it feels like. And we remind ourselves of how wrong we've been treated. Jesus is addressing that kind of anger. That's what he's addressing here, that deep-seated animosity. Okay, hang in there with me. Number 3, the impact of our words. So, what was the first one? I don't even remember now. Attitude, yep, is as important as the act. And then anger is animosity. And this third one is the impact of our words. Friends, Jesus is speaking about severe punishment for our words. The problem is that you and I have miscalculated the destructive impact that they can have. We've heard things like sticks and stones, right, can break my bones, but we're, right, names, whatever that is. That's not true. We've experienced differently. We've also heard it said, right, it takes 9 positive things to be said about us to, like, combat the one negative thing. Lord, it takes me like 50 positive things for me to take one negative email y'all sent. I'm like, life is over, you know. The worst kind of pain, friends, is that character assassination, right? Or verbal attack. I heard someone once say that the single most important tool you could add to your relational tool belt, didn't know we had one, but if we had one, it's a button for your mouth. It's a button for your mouth. Friends, your words have the power to manipulate, to coerce, to degrade, to criticize, but your tongue also has the power to ennoble and inspire and reassure and heal. Here's an example. It's not fun. A 4th grade female student brought this note. She got this note from a classmate. She brought it home to her mom. I hope her mom did something with this note. It's got some spelling errors in it, but it won't take you long to envision the impact that these words, I think, had probably on her soul. Here's this note. I want you to read it. I'll start. Dear, awful Janet, you're the stinkiest girl in this world. I hope you die. But of course, I suppose that's impossible. I've got some ideas, right? Go ahead and finish reading the note. You read it? Thanks, Wanda. No one has to remind Janet how powerful words can be. 4th grade! And students are slinging around this kind of stuff. Okay, your attitude is important as the act, right? Anger is animosity. Words are important. That's what Jesus is telling us in this passage in Matthew. Okay, you're like, okay, get rid of that note. Got it. Now what? Friends, I've sat with this and I'm like, well, where do we go? Like, I haven't committed murder. Whoop, whoop. You know, like, that's great. But man, how do I deal with this? And the anger that is in here. So now what? It is a heart issue, so we're gonna go there. So 3 things I wanna address, and then we'll do lunch. Okay. Number 1, choosing forgiveness. I know you're like, okay, got it. Listen. Jen Hatmaker, in her book of Mess and Moxie, it's fantastic. She talks about right here what forgiveness is not. It's so good. Forgiveness is not condoning evil. It's not forgetting. It's not brushing something under the carpet. It's not a free pass. Forgiveness does not mean minimizing the injury and consequently your pain. It doesn't shrink an offense down, making it smaller in memory and in impact. It doesn't shrug off loss with a, meh, no real harm, no real foul response. It does not mean conceding, surrendering to a different version, or yielding your right to dignity. It never communicates that this didn't happen, it didn't matter, or it didn't harm. Friends, I know that forgiveness is sometimes not just a one-time act. Okay, I'll forgive you. Maybe, you know what, I move on. It is sometimes a daily thing that happens. And sometimes, friends, if you're like me at all, I think I've forgiven them a long time ago, and then something comes up and I'm like, did I really? And I've got to do it again. We have to repeatedly choose it and go after it. It is the long road. Brennan Manning wrote this. It's so good. He wrote this. This is the God of the gospel of grace, a God who out of love for us sent the only son he ever had wrapped in our skin. He learned how to walk, he stumbled and fell, cried for his milk, sweated blood in the night, was lashed with a whip and showered with spit, was fixed to a cross, and died whispering forgiveness to us all. Forgiveness is the long road. It is a road that Jesus paved out for us to follow in. We cannot claim his mercies without also claiming this practice. We cannot claim his mercies without claiming this practice. We cannot try to live this victorious Christian life, but skip over the cost, the cross, or the commission. Friends, stop nursing your anger. Stop replaying the wrong. Stop mourning for an apology that may never come. Stop wasting your time and your energy getting all worked up all over again. It does you no good. Forgiveness is the hard work of naming, this is what happened, and then grieving it, and then empathizing, and then releasing. Friends, I think forgiveness is like a death. Hang in there with me. A death of something that we wanted, what we expected, what we'd hoped for, what we deserved and didn't get. That could be a friendship that didn't go quite right, an expectation of something that you had and that didn't go, and then now you got to forgive. Forgiveness is like a death. I saw this a while back on Instagram. It was fantastic. I identify with it. I sat with my anger long enough until she told me her real name was grief. Isn't that good? I'm going to read to you word for word this post because it's just so good. It's too good not to share. Here's what she writes. Perhaps a way out of the raging, furious anger is to sit still with it and see what it has to tell you. It might surprise you. Grief is tender and vulnerable, so it masquerades beautifully as anger, even fooling our own selves. I get the problems. Processing grief takes too long, and anger is quick and useful and immediate. Grief requires a soft heart, but that's super scary. So anger is a much safer substitute. Grief seems to concede power to someone else or some circumstance, while anger feels wonderfully under your control. Grief seems weak, and anger seems strong. Anger has its place, but unfortunately, it will rarely lead us back home to health and healing and wholeness. Friends, if it does, let me know. It won't, but we can talk, but it won't, right? It takes us further away because it's not telling us the truth, at least not the whole truth. Grief has to be named and processed and mourned. It is spectacularly vulnerable and always takes longer than I want. But I don't want my end game to be cold, hard anger. I need this heart to stay soft and truthful and open. Frankly, the world needs less angry people and more people willing to just grieve and heal. Anyhow, maybe the first step for a bunch of us is sitting still and quiet with our anger to discover it might have something else to tell us. off script for a second. I don't know how many months ago now, April 4th. My mom's best friend of 50 years. You're all not 50? Man, her best friend of 50 years was killed in a violent car accident. A guy who was drinking while driving, stolen a vehicle, ran through the red light and killed her on impact. I've sat with anger for a long time. But I can't let my heart go cold, you know? You gotta grieve it, process the anger, forgive one day, forgive again the next. That's what this is. That's what I think Matthew 5 is talking about. Friends, have you interviewed your anger? Have you sat with it for a little while? What's it telling you? I know you're angry. I get some of your emails. Have you talked with it? What's it telling you? Henry Nouwen wrote this. It's so good. Forgiveness is the name of love practiced among people who love poorly. Because the hard truth is that all people love poorly. We need to forgive and be forgiven every day, every hour, increasingly. That is the great work of love among the fellowship of the weak that is the human family. Friends, I implore you, better make it a priority to restore a relationship with someone than let it go down without a fight simply because you're afraid of conflict. If we choose forgiveness, if we keep this soft, right, it makes us tender. It leads to stronger relationships. It leads to peace and health and resilience and maturity and compassion, and the list goes on. Okay, so that's the first thing. We'll do two more quick things. Choosing forgiveness. Number 2, dropping your rock. And you're like, wait, what? Yeah, hang in there with me. Author Nicole Norman paints this beautiful picture of this practice of dropping our rock. She tells the story of the woman in John chapter 8. You're like, where are we going? Hang in there. John chapter 8, right, is the woman who was caught in adultery. So you can imagine the scene, right? Maybe you can't. I don't know if I can. Dragging her out, the men forced her to stand in front of the crowd as they pressed in on her angrily with rocks in their hands. Hot tears are spilling down her face in shame mixed with anger. Her stomach is knotted so tightly she can scarcely breathe. Her dignity was shredded, her spirit was drenched with dread, and her hands are probably clenched in defiance. She sinned, and she'd been caught, and now she was dead-end in a circle of judges with rocks in their hands. Have you ever noticed how good it feels to throw a rock really far and let it go? We all been down to the waterfront. You skip a rock and you hit a duck or something, you know, like, yeah, we all been there. I mean, and I think it can be great. I've done this several times with students or my friends, and we've taken rocks and like, this burden or this thing I need to forgive, and we let it go and we drop it, and it feels great, and we throw it, and it's exhilarating. I wonder if they felt that thing too, that same feeling of like, I can't wait to throw this at her. Here's the problem, friends. Rocks don't hit sin, rocks hit people. And I know what you're thinking. This story doesn't apply to me. I'm not throwing rocks at anyone. Oh, but it does. You and I are too sophisticated nowadays to be flinging granite around. But the words that we throw out in anger and judgment are as hard and cold as any stone of old. And the release we feel when we let them go can be just as exhilarating. Here are some examples. The person who hurt you experiences hurt themselves, and we hurl our rocks of vindication. What goes around comes around. The underclassmen who got the leadership position that you wanted, and we hurl our rocks by thinking, I'm better than them. Why'd they pick them? I hope they fail. The Christian teenage couple who get pregnant, and we hurl our rocks. Well, they should have been sleeping together. The female student who is bullied and called the slut, and we hurl our rocks when we think, oh, she's always wearing revealing clothes. She deserves what she got. Or the 4 college students who get killed in a car accident on a Friday night, and we hurl our rocks by saying, well, they shouldn't have been drinking. And then we drag our friends who have sinned right into the center of the circle, and we throw our rocks. And Lamont said, so good, you can safely assume you've created God in your own image. Well, it turns out that God hates the same people that you do. You and I walk around with stones in our hands when we have these judgmental thoughts, when we have a superior attitude, when we sling around our impatient words, and when we hold on to bitterness. Maybe you're wondering, man, Sarah, can't I be angry? Is being angry a sin? Can't I feel that? Yeah, when you stub your toe. No, friends, my 5-year-old Elias, little spitfire, like his mom. I mean, he is a spitfire. And his older brother, man, knows just how to poke the bull and antagonize him to the point of rage. I mean, anger. Sometimes rage. Oh, man, whoopsie. The script that Brian and I, my husband, are saying all the time, right, in our home. Elias, you can be angry. You can be mad. You can be hurt. And he's like, I'm frustrated. I'm like, I know you're frustrated. But you can't be mean because of how you feel. Feel all the feelings. But you're in control of what you do with those feelings. I'm kind of telling you the same thing this morning. Anger can become a sin, right? It isn't, but it can become a sin. In James and Ephesians and Proverbs, when it's motivated by pride, when we let it stir and linger and it holds a grudge, when it boils over without restraint. All the rock throwing in the universe cannot calm what aches and burns in our souls when we've been horribly wrong and we're left in our anger. There aren't enough rocks. When Jesus stepped out of the crowd that day and scribbled something in that sand, he reminded a group of angry people that no amount of stone throwing could satisfy the judgmental anger that burned inside of them. And what he scribbled on the sand, I don't know. If you know, let me know. I don't know. But maybe what he scribbled were the names in the crowd of those who'd also slept with her. That would get their attention. They'd take pause. Maybe Jesus wrote, "This is your daughter." That would certainly get their attention. Whatever he wrote, he said this afterwards, and they froze. "If any one of you is without sin, let him to be the one to cast the first stone." Complete silence. No one said anything. His words totally disarmed their anger. Whenever you and I find ourselves part of an angry circle of rock throwers, Jesus confronts us with the choice to choose love over judgment and tenderness over anger. He didn't make them drop their rocks. He didn't do some miracle magic thing or slap their hand and the rock dropped. All he did was challenge them to consider their own hearts. And they went, "Oh yeah, okay." And they dropped their rock. There are two things, friends, that you and I judge pretty harshly. One, we are those things that we don't struggle with. And then two are the things that we do struggle with. And here's what I mean. If you and I don't struggle with an issue, and I'm talking about something that we see in someone else, right? That sin or that thing that we see in someone else. If we don't struggle with the issue, it's easy to take a hard line and have no compassion. Well, it's not my issue. I don't understand it, so I don't have to be tender towards it. Or we do struggle with that same issue, and then we're the harshest judge of all because we condemn in others the very things that we're trying to deny in ourselves. We become championship rock throwers until one day it dawns on us. We come running into the circle with a rock in our hand, and our hand freezes at the realization that we're throwing at our own sin, and we hit ourselves in the process. We have to choose love over judgment and tenderness over anger. Our rocks will never change this world. It will only start with hate and fear. Throwing rocks will never make us more loving. Only when we practice actually dropping that rock of judgment or those harsh words and choose love do we become more loving. All right, third and final, taking your thoughts captive. And you're like, wait, what? Friends, here's the deal. You can't just hear a message about like not murdering someone. Whoop, you did it, great, and like say like, oh, I'll work on that. You're already working on it. Good job. You haven't done it yet. Whoop. There have to be these practices of what's going on in here and what's going on in here and why aren't they matching and how do I fix it? This is one of those things we need to practice. One of the battlefields that we win or lose the fight against our feelings is in our minds. Because how we think influences how we feel. Control your thoughts will control you. Proverbs 23:7. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. You are what you think. Pastor and author John Mark Comer, in his book, My Name is Hope, which I highly recommend, he says this: you need to learn to think about what you think about. I repeat, think about what you think about. Your feelings and emotions are the product of your thoughts. Most people are very in tune with how they feel, but oblivious to how they think. Friends, what are you giving mental real estate to? Because when you replay it up here, guess where you re-feel it in here? And then it comes out here. When was the last time you asked God to test your mind and to show you areas where your thought life was out of sync with God's heart? You and I have got to get better at this. And I got to get better at this, taking my thoughts captive. We got to take back control of the mental patterns and thoughts. And then we got to replace those thoughts, those false ones, with true ones. Okay, friends. Some key questions. I've already asked you those two about the mental real estate, and then have you interviewed your anger, and what's it telling you? What's it saying? Of the three things we talked about this morning, choosing forgiveness, dropping your rock, or taking your thoughts captive, what do you got to focus on? That's the question I want to leave you with this morning. I'm going to read a prayer over you in a minute, but I implore you, friends, like, well done for not committing murder. That's good. It's awesome. Man, but how do we deal with it in here? Because I know it's there. How do we make this healthier to get this healthier so this is healthy? Okay. I'm going to read to you something really quickly and lunch. A small little book. The author takes scripture and her own stuff, and then she's kind of written these letters like God was kind of writing to you and I. And she's written one about anger. So I want to pray this over you this morning, and then I'll dismiss you. So close your eyes if you would like, and come into the light with me. Knowing you are loved and safe and not guilty, let us look at your anger. Let us see it clearly and listen to it. Respond to the feelings of your heart honestly and openly. Don't be afraid of bad feelings. Face them before the sun sets on irritation and anger and rage, and they are tucked away in darkness, swelling and infecting your soul. Facing your anger will reveal much about you and your needs. Will you dare to learn? I will teach you to understand yourself. The teaching I give you in my word is wise. It's a fountain of life. The anger you aim at others turns about swiftly and strikes your own self. I have taught you how to reason and understand so that your emotions and passions will not rule you and overtake your sound thinking. Come reason with me. Anger is not evil in itself, but lying and ignoring problems can lead to evil. Avoiding the truth leads to great harm. Do not suffer needlessly, my dear one. Give yourself permission to face your feelings. Be kind to yourself. Be tender-hearted. Be kind and merciful toward yourself as I am merciful to you. Amen. That's a good word. Friends, you're dismissed this morning. Thank you for coming.